Guys, it's Princess
Prawn Solo.
Dan Can.
and Melbells.
On JPL, we're going to be talking about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Okay, so The Alchemist follows the path of Santiago, a young shepherd boy who is inspired to follow his dream of finding hidden treasure in Egypt. But to do so, he must leave the comfort of his home and initiate the task of discovering the world so that he can find his happiness. In order to find his happiness, however, he must discover his personal legend. And in order to do that, he needs to go out and explore it. But Santiago soon takes the first step of trying to acquire his happiness. He listens to his heart and overcomes fear. Santiago continues his journey and he discovers that he cannot be put out and he needs adversity to continue pursuing his personal legend, even if it seems impossible. So guys, what do you think?
So I thought the way the book was written, it was very simple and understandable. The theme of the messages was quite straightforward. It was pretty much not giving up on anything. But I felt like the book, it just needed more deeper meanings and more critical analysis. I get like some of the symbols were quite easy to find and understand too, but I didn't really like how between the lines there wasn't that many deep meanings to it. It was pretty much about like not giving up on anything. And but Paulo Coelho, he did a really good job in writing the book, but I felt as if because it was too simple and straightforward, it would have been better if he could hide some messages behind instead of like just writing it straightforward to it. But I thought the book was all right. But I don't know if I should recommend it. What about you, Heather? Can you recommend it?
I don't think I would recommend this book to others.
Why wouldn't you recommend it to others?
I really didn't like this book because of its simplicity. The book in general I felt was like very boring, and the turning points weren't as exciting as the books that we've read so far.
If you could connect this to another book that we've read so far, which one would it be?
I would connect The Alchemist to The Joy Luck Club because both main characters of the story/book traveled across the ocean to find new livings. So, Prawn Solo, what do you think the message of the book is?
I think that the message of this book is that if you work hard, you can reach your goal. The author conveys this message because everyone has gone through down times in life, and the only way to go forward is to never give up and keep believing in yourself. So, Princess, if you could become a character in the book right now, what would you do?
I think I would be Fatima because instead of being stuck in an oasis and knowing my future as a wife to like a husband I could rarely see, I would want her to go to Santiago to adventure the world and create new memories, because as being a woman we have just like started to be accepted into society, and this relates in Fatima because she was stuck in the oasis like other women, and giving her a chance to adventure would let her open up to new ideas and societies which would also help her change society back home and expand her knowledge about the world as well. So, Prawn Solo, if the story had a sequel, what do you think it would be about?
If the story had a sequel, I think it would be about the adventures that Fatima and Santiago went through, and maybe they could have children. However, without settling down, the family would journey through different cultures and nations. Along the way, I think, without their knowledge, that they would meet the old king again as a different person who helps them through different problems they face. At some point throughout the novel, Santiago would go home to his family and show the family of his own to his mother and father. Towards the end of the novel, Santiago would tell his baby boy the adventures he had and that he hopes his boy would travel the world and find his true love as well. Before Santiago passes away, his wife and his children promise to him to keep exploring and never settle down. Dan Can, if you could ask the author a couple questions right now, what would they be?
So, if I could ask Paulo Coelho a couple of questions right now, it would be that, one, how were you able to finish the novel in 2 weeks? Because that's an absurdly short time to write a story. I mean, we met this author named Stephen McLeroy, and he's probably, to this day, still working on his publication. Two, what made you write this novel as a fantasy and not a sci-fi or a romance? 3, how did you just write the story in general? 4, did you expect this book to be a bestseller even though you wrote it in 2 weeks? 5, What led you to create Santiago and making him the protagonist of the story? And 6, what personal experience did you have that sparked you to make the story? So guys, what are some of the key events that happened in the book?
So one of the key events would be Santiago's dream of finding a treasure at the pyramids while he's herding the sheep in southern Spain.
Another one is that he asks a gypsy woman to interpret his dream, and she tells him that he must go to the pyramids of Egypt to find the treasure.
After that, Santiago meets the old king, which he tells him to follow his personal legend.
The next one is that he sells his sheep and uses the money to go to Africa, but is promptly robbed in a city that he goes to.
But because he was robbed, Santiago has to work for a year in a glass shop until he makes enough money to go to the Sahara Desert.
Then, he joins a caravan and ends up at an oasis, where he has a vision of an invading army. And because of this vision, and he knows that it's right, he has to warn the oasis leaders in time.
At the same time, Santiago falls in love with a girl named Fatima at the oasis, but then he realizes that he must leave her to find his treasure. And so he meets an alchemist who actually helps him cross the desert to go to the pyramids.
Then, at the pyramids, Santiago digs for treasure, but he doesn't find anything. He eventually gets beaten up by some thugs, and they steal whatever gold that he had. But one of the thugs helped him by telling him that he dreamed of a treasure in an abandoned church in Spain.
Santiago goes to Spain to the church, and he actually realizes that his treasure is actually Fatima, and he found his sheep at the church too. Hey Dan, so what are some key symbols that were in The Alchemist?
One of the omens that occurred in the story happened after Santiago was scammed out of his money. Santiago worked in a glass crystal shop, regaining his fortune through hard work and smart business investments. He decided to quit working after making enough money shortly after quitting, but he decided to head back home, rebuy a sheep, and continue living his life as a normal shepherd. But 2 spheres fell out of his satchel, an omen, and it reminded him of his original plan, which was to travel to the pyramids to find treasure, which was his personal legend. He found himself in a predicament to become a shepherd once again or to continue his pursuit of personal legend. Another omen was when he spotted the hawk, which foretold the coming event of the oasis being invaded by a couple of thugs.
Okay, thank you guys so much for listening in today, and I hope you can comment down below on how you felt about the podcast or anything you would like to say. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.
P.S. We don't like trolls. Signing off, Mel Bells.
Dan Can.
Pran Solo.
Princess Heather.